Welcome back to another edition of the UFC Iceberg. I do this for every single pay-per-view. I actually started in the last UFC pay-per-view, UFC 321. I break the iceberg up into 4 tiers. At the top, I start with all the stuff that is very well known and that pretty much everybody knows that is going to be watching the card. And as we go down the iceberg, the more and more the stuff that I say gets to be less known and is a little bit more on the DL. These things that I'm going to be talking about aren't necessarily exclusive to this event. Some of them are, some of them aren't. It is kind of just pertaining to the fighters on the card. Before we do get into this, please do like and subscribe. I do a lot of research for this video. Been working on this weeks in advance, just researching, trying to find whatever it is that I can. If you can like and subscribe, I would highly appreciate that. Let's get straight into this. So for tier 1, we're going to get this going first with just the double champ implications that are going on with this card. Obviously, Weili Zhang Weili, moving up to fight Valentina Shevchenko, which I'll get into a little bit later on some speculation stuff about that, but she relinquishes her belt at 115 and moves up to 125 to fight Valentina, looking to become a double champ, not simultaneously, but a double champ nonetheless. Same goes for Islam Makhachev, who, as we all know, this card was basically centered around him. He is also looking to get double champ status, as most of you probably know already. As most of you also probably know, Dagestani Deja Vu. That pertains to Jack Della Maddalena, because in his last fight, he fought Bilal Muhammad. And I'm not just saying that because Bilal Muhammad and Islam Makhachev look a little bit like one another, but rather that they fight out of the Habib camp, out of AKA. And they are training partners and teammates. Kind of like a deja vu situation a little bit for JDM. Most people do already know that. We'll see if he can get it done. He's gotten it done once. We'll see if he can get it done again. I did drop a prediction video for just the JDM versus Islam fight yesterday. You can check that out. It'll pop up in the corner of your screen right here. You can click on that and watch that, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. Humble, again, a really normal one that probably everyone knows about. Bo Nickel, the star national champion wrestler from Penn State, who couldn't seem to find an ounce of humbleness, I guess is the word. He literally couldn't find any of it.
We have video of him throwing down guys in MMA who have never grappled at a competitive high world-class level. Do I think he's like a guy that could be top 3, top 5 in the world? Probably not. His biggest thing that's going to crush him, especially against a fight against me, is you're going to get tired. You're going to go like this, and I'm going to go like this as the fight goes on.
The guy was a total D-bag all the way up until when he got into the UFC. He got to the UFC, looked very mediocre, and continued to act like a self-absorbed douchebag, and eventually found himself on the prelims, which I will be referencing later. 18-0? Question mark? So basically, that is Jack Della Maddalena started his career 0-2, and it wasn't looking very good, and he has not lost since. He gets TKO'd in his first fight, and then the second fight he gets choked out, and it wasn't looking good. And he has openly stated that he really didn't think that fighting was for him. And now he's fighting for a top spot at the pound for pound list. Here we are. Rest is history. So yeah, again, most people do know these kinds of things. This is just the simple stuff, obviously, but that is tier 1. On to tier 2. So these things, we're starting to hit the downslope a little bit here and get into the things that maybe not so many people know. The next spot, rigged. For people who aren't clued in on the recent drama going down with the UFC and the FBI, there was a fight card a couple weeks ago, and Yadier Delbaye took on Isaac Dogarian, and essentially the odds shifted. Isaac Dogarian was a heavy favorite, around almost 4-1 favorite going into the fight, and then right before the fight starts, all of a sudden, the odds are almost even. I'm not going to get too into it, but it seemed that people were cheating and there was foul play. And since then, if you want to go on Twitter, this is everywhere. People are questioning everything. Every fight that happens, people don't know what's real anymore. So if you do hear like, oh, it's rigged, the whole it's rigged, that's the script, that's going to be popping up a lot more, especially on this card, with this card being so mainstream. There are plenty of videos out there covering this whole topic. Ariel Helwani did a huge interview on it. You can look at that. That is what that pertains to. If you do see a lot of people talking about the rigged fights and how it's the script that so-and-so supposed to win and whatever, that is why that is such a hot topic of conversation right now. Construction. Malcolm Wellmaker has been very open about his his time before the UFC, which he spent most of his time working more than 12-hour days on construction, much like the UFC legend and MMA legend Demetrius Johnson, who did the same thing, just kind of did it to keep himself in shape, and one thing led to another, and here he is on the main stage of the biggest MMA promotion in the world. Not the most crazy known thing, also not the least known thing you've ever seen. Yeah, kind of interesting. Very similar roots to Demetrius Johnson. Heavy hands. Don't be surprised if he lands a right hook this weekend and puts away Cody Haddon, but yeah, that is what that means. Pantoja, Fatality MMA. What the hell does Alexandre Pantoja have to do with UFC 322? The answer is he has nothing to do with UFC 322. Like, absolutely nothing other than literal memes online. So the meme behind Pantoja coincides with Islam Makhachev and him getting KO'd.
Caught him with a nice left hand there, too.
I find it crazy how not many people talk about the fact that Alexander Pantoja is the only person to beat Islam Makhachev, and he was able to knock him out.
You know who Pantoja beat, right?
No.
Makhachev knocked him out.
Oh,
ever heard of him?
A long time ago.
Doesn't matter. Still knocked him out.
Yeah.
That's how bad that motherfucker is.
People like to say, or they like to meme online, that when Islam Makhachev took his only loss of his career and he got KO'd, people say that it was Pantoja because the guy that KO'd him, to be fair, he does look just like a normal Brazilian dude that might have some resemblance to Alexandre Pantoja. And that joke was made years back at this point, and it is still a running joke to this day that some people online still aren't familiar with. I have friends of mine who are somewhat new to the sport, and they ask me, oh my God, Pantoja knocked out Islam? Oh my God, how am I just now seeing this? You're just now seeing this because it's fake. It's not real. Like, it's a joke. So that's what that is. Some people aren't aware of that meme, but that is a decently popular thing going around in the MMA media, or the MMA community rather. Chopped. We're doing back-to-back memes here. Chopped meaning Tracy Cortez's hair. She couldn't make weight at one point. She was like a pound or half a pound over the weight limit at one point, and she chopped off a bunch of her hair, got back up on the scale, and proceeded to just break down in tears, and her fake eyelash, I think, started to slip off at one point. I mean, that's really all it is. I had to throw Tracy Cortez in this iceberg at some point. She's too big of a name, especially in women's MMA, for me not to. Again, it's just like a meme. I mean, you can look up some of the threads on Twitter. It's literally people just like, it's people literally just saying, really, Tracy, is it that serious? Like, come on. I've heard of people doing much worse things to cut that last half pound than chopping off a little bit of your hair. The last one for tier 2 is Corporal, which is in reference to Benoit Saint-Denis' rank in the French army that he served in. He was a part of the paratrooper unit, served a lot in, I think it was like Mali, other countries in Western Africa. Some people aren't aware of the background that he has of being the god of war. That's essentially where that nickname comes from, is him being a corporal in the French army. On to tier 3. Tier 3. So special circumstances is going to be the first one that we go over, and that pertains to Angela Hill, actually. We're including her in this. Can you believe that? And her essential return to the UFC. So basically, these special circumstances were that, so she had been in the UFC in 2014. She gets cut after losing. In December of 2016, she signs back to the UFC. At the time, USADA was in charge of the anti-doping and the anti-drug, whatever. And with that being said, you're supposed to be in the drug testing pool for a minimum of a certain amount of time. Back then, I believe it was 4 months that you had to be in the testing pool in order to step foot into the octagon to fight. And for whatever reason, they said that Angela Hill had special circumstances and they waived the whole policy and just let her fight. Doesn't make much sense, like, at all. And I've looked up every single article that I could on this, and the only reason that I could find was literally that they were like, oh, we've seen you around here before. Nah, you don't have to follow any of those rules. That's basically what it was. Oh, Angela, you fought here before. Come on in. That was literally the reasoning behind it, which I don't know why it was that she got special treatment. She wasn't some like touted prospect who everyone needs. Oh my God, everyone needs to see Angela Hill fight. Oh my God, she's the next Ronda Rousey. She's incredible. She's Chris Cyborg 2.0. We need to see this girl fight. the drug test. Get her in here. No, she's just like a normal, like, prospect. There was nothing special. She didn't even have that many fights on her record. And they were just like, we've seen you around here before. You're a regular around here. You fought here before. You don't have to get drug tested. After that, I have Gangs, which is Leon Edwards and his gang-affiliated background. Growing up, Leon Edwards has not spoken a lot about, but he has said that in the past, that in his childhood and in his upbringing, he was always around gang violence, and that he has been arrested multiple times with knives on him, getting into fights, jumping people essentially with weapons. Things weren't looking too good for Leon on the come up, apparently. Again, he doesn't really talk about this too much, but it is something that he has been outspoken about at times. And it is kind of crazy to think about that the guy was literally like threatening people with weapons at one point, and then all of a sudden he's like this soft-spoken guy who had a relationship with his late father, and that's what he talks about. You hear about like the soft-spoken stuff, not so much the fact that he was like arrested multiple times, him getting into gang-affiliated like arrests, stuff like that. You just don't hear about it so much as you would think. Retire. I had to bring up Bo Nickel. I had to. People on this channel know that I don't like Bo Nickel at all. And now you're probably looking at the screen. Fatality MMA. Retire Bo Nickel. He's fighting on the prelims this weekend. Oh, I'm well aware. I am well aware that he's fighting this weekend on the prelims. On the prelims, he's fighting on the prelims.
They'll do the right thing. They'll do the smart thing. And if I'm like I said, if I'm on the prelims, I'll retire. If I'm on the prelims, I'll retire.
Yes, Bo Nickel did say that at one point. Hey, Bo, if you're a man of your word, get the out of the sport. You said it. You said it, not me. I didn't say it. I'm just pulling up receipts. No, but in all seriousness, this guy was on the main card at one point for this pay-per-view. If you can believe that. If that would have happened, I would have boycotted this sport. I'm not kidding. Moving on from that, 4 days notice. That is for Baisengar Susurkayev, who is on the prelims of this card. He will be taking on Eric McConaughey, and he is a heavy favorite for his UFC debut that he made against Eric Nolan recently. He fought on 4 days notice, and it wasn't just a typical 4 days notice. It was a 4 days notice where he fought on the Contender Series 4 days prior. So he fought 2 times in a matter of 4 days and got 2 finishes. That is why he is a minus however big of a favorite. Probably, if I had to guess, it's probably around minus 1,000 at this point. Crazy statistic. As I'll mention in a little bit, his teammate is Khamzat Chimaev, who had a very similar intro to the UFC, where Khamzat was taking on all these different people on 1 week, on a few days, on 2 weeks, just on short notice. That was kind of what Khamzat was known for. And now his teammate Baisengar Susurkayev is doing the same thing. On to tier 4, getting into a little bit of the juicy stuff. First of all, natty or not. When people think about the natty goats, because you hear that all the time because John Jones has the most failed PED tests in the history of the UFC for a champion especially. They exclude him. They try to exclude Anderson Silva for his PED usage. People try to steer the conversation away from GOAT and more so toward natty GOAT. A lot of people mention Demetrius Johnson. A lot of people mention GSP. A lot of people are now starting to mention Islam Makhachev. But to some of your knowledge, Islam Makhachev has failed a drug test. In January of 2016, Islam Makhachev failed a drug test and he popped for an enhancer called meldonium. So meldonium is a foreign substance that is banned in the US and Western Europe. But then you go to Eastern Europe and it's not a banned substance anymore. So back in 2016, they had changed the rule. They'd taken it out of the banned substance list. But right before that, or right around that time rather, Islam had popped for this substance. But almost immediately, the drug test just got waived and they didn't do anything about it, even though he did pop for meldonium. And you're probably wondering, what the hell could meldonium even be if it's banned one place and not banned in another place? Like, what's the big deal? Who cares, you know? For one, this isn't like some, dude, it's the smallest thing, it's meldonium. No, this thing, it enhances your central nervous system. So essentially, it increases like your cognitive function. You don't get as tired in fights. I believe it's your red blood cells. They start working a little bit harder, so you don't get as tired. People who take meldonium are known to recover at an alarming rate after exercising. And like I said, it increases your endurance. It's literally just a blatant PED. That's literally all it is. And he got away with it, basically due to just a flaw in the system, or the timing rather, didn't add up to where they couldn't really do anything about it. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Do you think Islam should have been suspended? Or do you think he should be taken off of the natty goat list? Or whatever it is, let me know your thoughts down below on that. But it is an interesting story to look into. Patek, this is in regards to Baysinger Susurkayev, who I mentioned earlier. Baysinger Susurkayev, as I also mentioned earlier, is very, very close friends with Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev, who is he also linked to? For people who aren't aware of who Kadyrov is, he is the head of the Chechen Republic. He doesn't really have the best track record of the way he treats his citizens. I'm not going to get too into that. I might have to make another UFC Iceberg video where Khamzat Chimaev's involved, and I would like to save a little bit of content. But to put it long story short, he's not the best guy in the world. So these two guys, assumingly being on the inner circle of Kadyrov had openly given gifts to Khamzat Chimaev, most notably a Maybach Mercedes. Why he did that, I'm assuming it's due to his loyalty that he has toward Kadyrov and toward Kadyrov's regime, I guess you could say. And Baysinger Susurkayev had just made his Dana White Contender Series debut on a Tuesday. The Tuesday before his debut, like I said, he fought on 4 days notice. So the media day on Thursday, so 2 days after that. Again, he has not fought at a high, like a super high professional level, really ever. He shows up to the press conference with a $200,000 watch. Hey, Baysinger, where'd you get the watch? Where'd you get the watch, buddy? Maybe someone's trying to buy your loyalty, maybe. It's speculation. I'm not saying any, but I have done a bit of research and I have been connecting some dots. So you let me know if I'm crazy and I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist, or if things do point to that. Like the guy had 9 fights on his record, fighting at a very small organization, a pro level, but a small organization, wins on the Contender Series, and then he just has a $200,000 watch just out of nowhere. Something's not adding up. And he comes from the, this very modest Russian background. From what I found, he doesn't come from money. Where'd you get the watch, man? Where did it come from? Anyways, just a fun little conspiracy that you can look into. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I just don't know where the watch came from. That's all I'm saying. Time off. This one's more of a reach than the last one. This is in regards to Weili Zhang and the amount of time off that she takes in between her fights. So Weili Zhang, for one, every time that she does fight, she goes back to China for extended periods of time. And earlier in her career, you can look up the amount of times that she's been drug tested throughout the years and the amount of times per year and all that. So usually she would get tested about 9-10 times a year. And now, as she goes to move up, she takes another extended period of time off, goes back to China, where it's also hard to get drug testers out there and find them also. She's only been tested 3 or 4 times, less than half of the times that she was usually tested. So there is speculation online. This is more of a conspiracy and a speculatory story rather than truth. But there are Reddit threads, there are Twitter threads where it's like, yo, is she taking something? Is she on something? I remember when she got to the UFC and there were still people who were like, yo, who the is this Wei Li chick who looks like Bruce Lee? Like, what the hell is going on? Immediately, it was like, yo, is she on the sauce? And now, in case she's getting tested less and less, she's going on these hiatuses more and more and more. What the hell is going on? Now, she goes on a hiatus and she bulks up. She doesn't get tested very much at the same time. Ew. And the most recent time that I saw that she did get tested was February? Again, it is speculation. Who knows? I'm kind of reaching at this one a little bit, but that is something that people have been looking into. Terrorist. This is a little bit of a juicy one that I'm sure people have heard of, but I'm sure that also a lot of people have not looked into very much. Islam Makhachev's manager, Ali Abdelaziz. So to jog your memory, maybe if you don't recognize the name or you just can't seem to, who the hell, Ali Abdelaziz, who the hell is that? Do you guys remember the clip of Conor? I could go into heavy detail, and I will go into heavy detail.
I could go into heavy detail, and I will go into heavy detail. He was pulled off of a flight going from Cairo, Egypt to New York City on September 11, 2001. He was caught with 5 passports in his possession. He turned informant and turned on the people that he was working with. I don't even know how that man is in this country.
With 5 passports in his possession, I don't even know how that man is in this country. You remember that whole debacle? At the time, and still to this day, people are like, oh my God, Conor, Conor, geez, dude. Like, that's some pretty heavy accusations, bro. Relax. Like, I understand you're the king of trash talk and everything, but chill out. Conor did not tell one fucking lie. Ali Abdelaziz on September 11, 2001. For people who aren't tracking, that's the day of the catastrophe of 9/11. Ali is pulled off of a flight going from Cairo, Egypt to New York City with multiple passports, openly admits that he was committing passport fraud. The FBI pulls him in, questions him. He goes, okay, I'll be an informant. Like, I'll get the intel that you guys need. As long as you guys in exchange, you know, you give me safety, you give me like a shelter to make sure that these people don't come after me again. And then the FBI dropped him. And they dropped him because they had speculation that he had turned back on the FBI and he was working as a double agent. And that is all fucking true. You could look at, and if you don't like the that I'm putting up on the screen, you could look up the articles yourself. The guy has ties to 9/11. The guy has ties to multiple terrorist organizations. And he's the manager of over 40 fighters in the UFC, including Islam Makhachev and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Conor did his homework, dude. And with that, that is the UFC 322 Iceberg. Again, not the most interesting. This one might have been a little bit better than the UFC 321 Iceberg. You guys can let me know if you did think that it was better, if you didn't think it was better. If there's something that I missed also, please let me know in the comments. I'm willing to learn some stuff. But I have been researching this for a while, and it took me a long time to put this together. So if you could, drop a like. I would highly appreciate that. I do have my prediction video that is coming out tomorrow. I dropped my prediction video for Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev just as a whole yesterday. You can check that out if you want to see my thoughts on that. That is all I got for you. So again, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.